at the hidden assumptions. Okay. So we need to look at those hidden assumptions. Okay. We need to look behind the curtains and see what the exact situation is. And we also need to ask complex questions. Okay. Next is we answer questions using a variety of thinking processes, which I have already mentioned. You need to analyze. Analyze is always breaking a problem into multiple parts or subparts, and then, working on each individual part. Okay. And you go stepwise, like in mathematics, sometimes you, solve problems stepwise. Same way here in critical thinking, the process of analysis is solving things stepwise. Okay. Synthesis is wherein you connect the dots, wherein you make two and two together, then you interpret those dots, and then you evaluate those dots. So that is the entire process of critical thinking. So that is how you critically think. Now, I do not have much time because these are very lengthy topics on their own. So I'm going to talk about the development of the innovation and the entrepreneurship cell. Now, why the innovation and entrepreneurship cell is important is that at any college or institute level, there are multiple faculties, there are multiple students, and anybody can have an idea at any particular point of time. Now, to prevent these ideas from going waste, it is always a good thing to incubate these ideas, to encourage people to convert these ideas into prototypes, and then these prototypes into sustainable startups. So that is where the innovation and the entrepreneurship cell comes into picture. It creates awareness, within your university or within your institute, about innovation, about entrepreneurship, and to create an ecosystem. We don't only have to create awareness, we need to create an ecosystem about innovation and entrepreneurship, so that when a student or a faculty comes up with an idea, they will immediately approach these cells to, so that their ideas can be converted into sustainable startups. And also an incubation center, these are all sub wings of an incubation center. Now there are various fundings that can be received for the incubation and the startups. First is the Atal incubation centers. The Atal, basically, it can give you a grant up to 5 crores for your incubation. Then we have the ACIC, which provides about 2.5 cr funding to the private sectors. Then we have the TBI. Now this basically the TBI, or Department of Science Technology Business Incubator. So this basically funds all the startups that are related to the technical background or technology based, and they can give you a funding up to 4 crores. Then we have the seed money grants. Now please understand, seed money grants can be at a central level, can be at a state level. At the central level they are different, and at the state level they are different. Right now, seed money grant under Startup India, there is a fund called as the Seed Money Fund under Startup India, which can give you a grant up to 1 crore for the startups. Okay, depending upon how your startup is, you can get a lot of funding. So all these are, all these facilities are being provided by the Indian government for the sole purpose is that they want you to become a job giver rather than a job seeker. And the a startup can only be funded, if your startup has the capability of employing others, one, and second thing is the amount of employment it can generate, and what kind of a problem you are solving. These are two very very important things, that are considered while funding. And also, just doing a startup is not enough. The most important thing is, doing a startup is still easier, but sustaining that startup is the the question. How do you sustain that startup? And to sustain that startup, things like design thinking come into flow, because when you design think, you can have a very strategic business plan. It helps you make a very strategic business plan, and only when you have this business plan, you will be able to have a successful sustained startup. So thank you. Any questions from the audience?
Yes, ma'am, I have one.
Yeah, please go ahead.
Ma'am, if we take some decision, you said it yourself that critical thinking comes into play. But ma'am, there is a, ma'am, self ego when we take some decision, ma'am, it affects in some way.
Yes, so that is what critical thinking is all about. You have to put your ego aside. Critical का मतलब क्या होता है? आप अपने आप को analyze कर रहे हो, अपने आप को as a third person, second person you need to analyze. So you have to put the ego, aside. You cannot be a critical, you cannot critically acclaim yourself unless you leave that ego. तो ego को side पे करना पड़ेगा और बिगर पिक्चर को देखना पड़ेगा. जब तक आप बिगर पिक्चर को नहीं देखोगे, तब तक आप क्रिटिकली थिंक नहीं कर सकते. और क्रिटिकल थिंकिंग का मेन मकसद ही यही होता है, अपने आप को छोड़ के बिगर पिक्चर पे देखना, अपने बायसेस को दूर हटा के लुकिंग एट दी थॉट प्रोसेस ऑफ द अदर्स आल्सो. हाउ मेनी पीपल, लेट्स से आई हैव अ सिचुएशन, हाउ मेनी पीपल इट इज गोइंग टू अफेक्ट, and what is going to be the outcome of my thought. You have to self analyze, you have to put your ego aside. I hope I answered your question.
Yes, ma'am. Ma'am,
Yeah.
I have one doubt also. Ma'am, like
Yeah.
if we have a startup and we are doing
Hmm.
it, but ma'am, there is, ma'am, called unity. Like basically
Hmm.
group thinking come into play. Like ma'am,
Yes.
are discussing some ideas with our groups, like ma'am, but you
Hmm.
said it ma'am कि ma'am critical thinking अगर self ego को हटा करके मैम, but फेयर नहीं रहता फिर मैम कोई चीज, वो पूछना चाह
See,
रहे थे.
when please understand that when you're working in a group, अगर आप ईगो पे लेते रहेंगे कोई भी बात, तो उसका क्या आउटकम निकलेगा, आप मुझे खुद बताओ. Will you be able to come out with an outcome?
नो मैम.
Then to see bigger picture, यहाँ पे क्या है? Bigger picture is your ego और bigger picture is वो startup का outcome आना.
मैम इट्स द
स्टार्टअप का
आउटकम
आउटकम
इटसेल्फ.
आना. बिल्कुल. तो फिर तो बिगर पिक्चर का मतलब क्या है? क्रिटिकल थिंकिंग इज लुकिंग एट द बिगर पिक्चर, राइट?
ओके. यस मैम.
ओके. एनी अदर क्वेश्चंस?
Anyone else from the audience? Anyone? Any query? Okay, I think you can wind it now.
Okay, thank you, madam.
Thank you so much, Dr. Gitanshu, for sparing your precious time and interacting with us.
Thank you. Thank you
Thank you
so
so
much.
much.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.